Washington mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. And AM 630. WMAL.
737, you're on WMAL with Brian and Brian. This is the place where Washington comes to talk and where very smart people come to talk from time to time, including our good friend KT McFarland. KT is the Fox News national security analyst and host of FoxNews.com's DEFCON 3 show, which is heard each Wednesday at 2 p.m. on live.foxnews.com. Hello, KT.
Good morning, boys.
Always good to have you, and never better time to have you than in the wake of what happened in Seoul, South Korea. The president and Dmitry sitting down to have a talk, and the cameras come in, and there is this hot mic incident in which the president pleads with Dmitry Medvedev for more time. Tell your friend Vladimir Putin that we need more time on this missile defense thing. Give me your take on what has happened there.
It wasn't that we need more time. It's
more
that he
space.
said that once I'm reelected, we'll be able to cut a deal. In other words, I'm not going to go to the American public and tell them what I might do with you, but once I'm reelected and there's nothing stopping me, then we'll have a different deal, and it's presumably one you'll like a lot more than the American public will. Look, I found that really chilling, because my initial reaction was, whose side is he on? But I think even more, and the more I thought about it, I thought, God, this is the outward and visible sign of something really bad. Because if he's saying this privately to the Russians, what's he saying privately to Iran, or to North Korea, or to China, or to Syria? Is he promising them stuff that after he's reelected, he's going to have a different approach to them? And on the other hand, if you're Israel, you're just scratching your head and you're saying, wait, he's told me that he's got my back. He's told me that he's with me. Once he's reelected, is it going to be some different story?
That's exactly what I was thinking, as I said yesterday. Does that then speed up Israel's plans for what they have to do with Iran, or if they get to that point, does it speed it up if they hear this and they say, well, geez, do I really want to wait till after the election now?
Well, I think what it does is it calls into question the word that he gives to anybody, whether it's to Israel, whether it's to the American people, because he's clearly got another agenda that he's planning to use once he's reelected, I think, which is a really important reason to not reelect him. But the other thing about it that I thought was really upsetting is it's dumb. I mean, what he said to the Russians is dumb. Why say that to them? Why give away your negotiating position? The best way to negotiate with the Russians, as we have seen historically, it's not playing nice guy. It's not giving them a goodwill gesture in hopes that they'll reciprocate, because they don't. They just pocket it. I mean, look at what happened when Obama gave up the missile shield in Poland and the Czech Republic 2 years ago, in anticipation and expectation that the Russians would respond by cooperating with us at the United Nations and cooperating with us in trying to stop Iran's nuclear program. He got nothing. He got stiffed.
All right. So speaking about Iran and Israel, I have seen some comments of late from Israeli officials that suggest that they feel like they have some more time here. What is your current read on that situation?
Well, first of all, I think the people who are talking about it don't know, and the people who do know aren't talking about it. So take whatever I say with about as much grain of salt as anybody else. I think Israel's got to make a calculation, and part of it just changed yesterday because they've now got to put into their calculation, do they trust Obama when he says, I've got your back? And the whole problem, and the way I like to think about it, is Netanyahu, and he's the driving factor here, not the United States. He's got 3 countdown clocks on the desk. How much time does he have left before Iran has nuclear weapons? 2, how much time does he have to give Obama to try diplomacy to stop Iran? And 3, the election countdown clock. Does he put his destiny, the destiny of Israel, in the hands of President Obama? Because the United States has a much longer window, larger time frame that we can attack Iran's nuclear sites than the Israelis do. And that time frame is, again, one that is on that countdown clock. So I just think that whatever Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel was thinking, it got a lot more complicated yesterday.
I haven't asked you about this, but the United States ran some war games about what would happen if, there was an attack by Israel against Iran, and how the United States might be involved in that. And apparently the outcome of that, according to some of the reporting I read, was that they came to the conclusion it would be very hard for the U.S. not to be drawn into it.
Yeah, and Brian, you're absolutely right. it's not just the U.S. war games. There've been think tanks have been running these war games for about the last year and a half. And although the premises are different and the sort of scenarios are different, they all have two things in common. One, that it immediately becomes a larger regional war, as maybe Hamas counterattacks, as Iran maybe mines the Strait of Hormuz. And the second thing is that the United States gets drawn in. So this is a really lousy option. On the other hand, what's an even worse option, and that's a nuclear Iran throwing its weight around, controlling the world's oil supply. Because I think Iran isn't just after nukes. I think that's one of its goals, but its other goal, and in fact maybe its more important strategic goal, is to have control of the world's oil supplies from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean. And if it controls the world's oil, then it controls the world's economy. And then it affects the entire world, not just the region.
So is Iran our number one geopolitical foe? And I say that because Mitt Romney's response to the president's gaffe in Russia was that he was upset because he was helping our number one geopolitical foe being Russia. That raised a lot of eyebrows.
Well, look, I'm not going to give him, it's not going to be like the FBI's 10 most wanted list. I think that all these countries are countries that bear watching. A nuclear Iran changes the whole world. On the other hand, a Russia which somehow we unilaterally disarm, or we sign deals, or this president signs deals that aren't to America's favor and are to the favor of Russia, I think that's a bigger problem, too. I think you watch them all. I think the number one threat to American national security, though, is our economy. If our economy doesn't recover, if we don't resume our position in the world, then guess what? Foreign policy, national security, defense, military, that's just collateral damage as we try to hold the country together.
All right, lastly, a new poll out there shows that almost 70% of Americans want out of Afghanistan. I know the Secretary of Defense says we're not going to fight wars by polls. Is he right in that? But can you really continue to fight wars when 70% of the country doesn't want to be there?
Well, first of all, 70% of the country is really smart. I mean, Americans have a lot of common sense, and they can't be fooled. You can fool some of the people all the time, some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. And that's the American public. And as far as what the president's going to do or not going to do about Afghanistan, for him it's an election issue. He doesn't want the loss of Afghanistan on his balance sheet running into the election. On the other hand, he doesn't want to do anything that's going to precipitate a collapse in Afghanistan. So he's going to just keep the status quo. But what's his word worth? I mean, if I'm Karzai, what am I thinking his word's worth? Again, the same calculation Israel's got to be making.
Karzai's not a guy I mind. Keep guessing.
Yeah, I don't mind about him either.
All right, KT, great to have you on as always.
Good to have you
Appreciate
on.
it.
Yeah, thanks, KT.